What if we told you that two of the most iconic voices in country music never planned to become a duo? That one was a theology student who got kicked out of school for playing honky-tonks, and the other, a Shreveport songwriter bouncing between gigs, chasing something just out of reach. Together, they'd become Brooks and Dunn, the kings of neon nights, line dance anthems, and Southern soul. But offstage, they built a different legacy. Welcome to the hidden ranch life, lavish estates, and personal stories of the legends who brought the honky-tonk to America's heart. This isn't just music, it's land, it's legacy, it's personal. Let's step inside. Before there were spotlights, sold-out arenas, and line dances under stadium lights, there were two Southern boys, lost in different corners of America, chasing melodies. Kix Brooks, born Leon Eric Brooks III, came from Shreveport, Louisiana. He wasn't the loudest voice in the room, but he had grit in his throat and stories in his fingers. He started small, really small, playing bars in Maine, sleeping in vans, scribbling lyrics on diner napkins. He was the neighbor of Johnny Horton once, and perhaps that proximity to legend sparked something in him. Still, he spent years behind the curtain, writing hits for others. Ever heard John Conley's "I'm Only in It for the Love"? That was Kix. So was modern-day Romance by the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and more. Meanwhile, a few states west, Ronnie Dunn was walking a different line. He was a Texas preacher's kid, born in tiny Coleman, with a voice full of fire and heartbreak. He thought he was destined for the pulpit until he got kicked out of Hardin-Simmons University for moonlighting at bars. Yes, you heard that right. The man who once dreamed of sermons found his gospel in neon jukeboxes and steel guitars. But success? It didn't come fast. In the 80s, Ronnie released solo songs like "She Put the Sad in All His Songs," barely scraping the charts. He was talented, no doubt, but the road ahead was a slow crawl. So how did destiny finally call? In 1989, Dunn won a Marlboro-sponsored talent contest. That win led him to a studio in Nashville. And in that studio, a man named Scott Hendricks played his tapes to Arista's Tim DuBois. DuBois had a wild idea. "Let's pair him with Kix Brooks," he said. "They're both songwriters. Maybe there's something there." Nobody knew if it would work. Not even the guys themselves. They weren't best friends, weren't even similar. But when they recorded their first demo together, it clicked. There was thunder in Ronnie's vocals. There was swagger in Kix's twang. Together, they sounded like a new chapter of country. Old soul with fresh boots. They named their debut single "Brand New Man." And when it dropped in June 1991, it exploded, straight to #1. 3 more singles followed, and each one hit the top of the charts. My Next Broken Heart, Neon Moon, and their version of Boot Scootin' Boogie didn't just top the country charts, they defined them. For the first time in country music history, a duo had 4 consecutive #1 hits right out of the gate. The critics mixed at first. Some called them too polished, too catchy, too honky-tonk for the purists. But fans were two-stepping in every bar in America. By the time their first album, Brand New Man, hit platinum, it was clear this was no experiment. Brooks and Dunn weren't just a duo, they were a force. And the industry noticed. They took home Duo of the Year from the Country Music Association in 1992. And for the next 14 years, they held that title, save for one. So what made them stand out? They weren't just two guys sharing a mic. They were yin and yang. Ronnie, the emotional anchor. Kix, the kinetic storm. It was chemistry. Imperfect, but electric. And just like that, 2 struggling solo artists became the unlikeliest of legends. But their story was only beginning, because the next chapter would take them far from the soundstage and deep into the heart of the country, where mansions rose from meadows, where horses grazed under the same stars that once lit arena shows, where music, money, and memories met the quiet of rural life. And that, dear viewer, is where we're headed next. Ranch in Nashville. Just outside the beating heart of Nashville lies a ranch that doesn't just whisper country, it sings it. This is the legendary estate that Brooks and Dunn have long shared. Part creative sanctuary, part southern dreamland. Nestled within 550 acres of Tennessee's finest countryside, this sprawling property in Williamson County isn't a home, it's an anthem in brick and timber. Let's begin with the centerpiece, a 10 900 square foot mansion, a classic Southern structure with timeless bones. Inside, it's a masterclass in rustic luxury. Vaulted wooden ceilings give the home a cathedral feel, perfect for a duo whose music often felt like gospel. The stone fireplace towers with character. Antler chandeliers cast soft shadows across leather chairs and pine-paneled walls. And the kitchen? It's where soul food meets soul music. Built for a Southern chef and a songwriter's late-night cravings, it features Texas-sourced stone, a massive island, and warm lighting that turns any gathering into a memory. But this house is just the beginning. Step outside, and you'll find a landscape tailored for legends. There's a 4,000 square foot guest barn, lovingly converted into a honky-tonk hall where friends, family, and fellow artists gather to dance, jam, and celebrate. The land itself rolls gently, dotted with stables, horse paddocks, a greenhouse, and a sparkling pool tucked under open sky. It's private, but not lonely. Quiet, but never silent. This isn't the kind of ranch you retire in. This is the kind of ranch where inspiration lives, where lyrics are born with the sunrise, where fame is left at the gate, and only legacy walks through the door. Purchased in 1996 for under $1 million, this ranch now holds a value of more than $9.3 million. But let's be honest, how do you put a price on a place where Red Dirt Road might have been drafted on the porch? Here, amidst the oak trees and open skies, Brooks and Dunn didn't just rest, they recharged. And that's the beauty of this home. It reminds us, even the biggest stars in country music need a front porch, and a view that stretches as far as the past they came from. Now, let's head west, to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the second jewel in Brooks and Dunn's shared empire stands tall, the McBurney Mansion. Mansion in Oklahoma. Built in 1928, this four-story architectural wonder isn't just a home, it's a living relic. Seated on nearly 3 acres of meticulously landscaped grounds, this estate doesn't play at being elegant. It defines the word. The location alone is a dream. It overlooks Tulsa's shimmering zinc lake, and its sweeping terraced gardens stretch like arms toward the water, inviting you in with every breath of breeze. But the magic truly begins when you walk through its doors. Inside, you're met with vaulted ceilings, ornate crown moldings, and a sense of scale that feels almost presidential. Each room has been curated with intentionality. Whether it's the hand-carved fireplace mantels, the grand staircase, or the antique light fixtures, it's all there. Preserved but alive. One step into the formal parlor, and you feel history speaking through the walls. And yet, the mansion balances its 1920s soul with every modern amenity a contemporary star could need. Think state-of-the-art lighting, climate-controlled wine storage, and rooms acoustically perfect for live sessions or private listening. But perhaps the most breathtaking feature? The 3 spring-fed ponds glistening just beyond the glass. Surrounded by centuries-old trees, they mirror both the sky and the stillness of the lives that now enjoy them. Whether it's morning coffee on the upper terrace or an intimate dinner with friends, the McBurney Mansion doesn't just accommodate, it enchants. Valued today at over $6.5 million, this estate isn't about price. It's about presence. It's a home for reflection, for inspiration, for the kinds of late-night conversations that birthed songs like Neon Moon and My Maria. In contrast to the Nashville Ranch's open skies and saddle leather soul, the Tulsa Mansion offers refined tranquility, architectural reverence, and a sense of timeless honor. And perhaps that's why Brooks and Dunn chose to keep both. Because together, these two properties represent not just who they are, but the duality that's always defined them. Ranch and royalty, dust and glass, stage and silence. They had the fame, the fortune, the mansions, the platinum plaques. But if you ask Brooks and Dunn what truly mattered, it wasn't the trophies on the shelves, it was the impact they left behind. For Kix Brooks, the mission was simple: keep the music alive. Philanthropy. As a key figure in the CMA Foundation, he helped launch the now legendary Keep the Music Playing program. Through it, over $11 million flowed into public schools across Tennessee, funding instruments, teachers, and full-blown music programs that would have otherwise gone silent. It wasn't just a donation, it was a belief that every kid deserves a melody to hold on to. He also supported institutions like the Monroe Correll Jr. Children's Hospital and the Monroe Harding Center, helping vulnerable youth find shelter, care, and hope. And Ronnie, he turned his own Nashville ranch into a beacon of generosity. Each year, he hosted the deeply personal Rock the Barn fundraiser, an intimate, boots-on-the-ground event that raised thousands for causes close to his heart. From St. Thomas Breast Cancer Center to Gilda's Club for Cancer Patients, Dunn made sure the music played loudest where it mattered most, in people's lives. And the beauty of it all, they never shouted about it. They didn't seek headlines or photo ops. They gave because giving was part of the music. Because behind the guitars and cowboy boots were two men who knew exactly where they came from and never forgot the hands that helped them up. From neon stages to school gymnasiums, from stadiums to silent hospital rooms. Brooks and Dunn didn't just build hits, they built hope. The hits may have made them famous, but Brooks and Dunn's voices? They've lived far beyond the stage, other works. For over 3 decades, their sound has slipped into places you might never expect. Movie soundtracks, tribute albums, animation films, and even the TV dial. In 1994, they recorded Ride 'em High, Ride 'em Low for the rodeo drama 8 Seconds, a fitting anthem for a film that mirrored their own rise from grit to glory. That same year, they covered Corinne Corina alongside Asleep at the Wheel, tipping their hats to Western swing legend Bob Wills. And it didn't stop there. They lent their voices to a powerful rendition of Folsom Prison Blues with none other than Johnny Cash, a moment that felt less like collaboration and more like the passing of a torch. They weren't just paying tribute to country music's past, they were becoming part of its future mythos. You could hear them in the King of the Hill soundtrack, covering Bob Seger's Against the Wind, or on Eagles tribute albums, or crooning alongside Mac Powell from Third Day for the indie film Billy, The Early Years. Each track a new frontier. Each project a new way to say, we're more than just a duo. And then came the movies. Kix Brooks, never one to stay still, stepped in front of the camera, starring in indie westerns like Thrift Store Cowboy and The Last Ride. He even took over as host of the nationally syndicated American Country Countdown, replacing Bob Kingsley in 2006. That voice, once echoing through arenas, now guided listeners across the country every weekend, song by song, story by story. Meanwhile, Ronnie Dunn continued building bridges between genres, appearing on tracks with Trisha Yearwood, Keith Urban, and Ashley Monroe, always lending that unmistakable, emotionally raw voice to whatever story was being told. He even shared studio space with Carlene Carter for a cover of Jackson, once immortalized by Johnny and June. And when country music decided to reboot itself, who better to lead the charge than the duo who once redefined it? In 2019, they released Reboot, an album that paired Brooks and Dunn with today's hottest country artists. Luke Combs, Kane Brown, and others reimagined their classic hits, breathing fresh fire into tracks like Brand New Man and Believe. But this wasn't nostalgia. This was reinvention. It was proof that Brooks and Dunn weren't relics. They were roots, alive, growing, and still reaching new ground. Because when you've shaped the sound of a generation, you don't fade out, you echo forward. So what exactly made Brooks and Dunn's music hit so hard? Why did Boots, Scootin' Boogie bring back line dancing? Why did Believe stop listeners in their tracks? The answer isn't just in the lyrics or the guitars, it's in their contrast, and in how that contrast made everything click. Ronnie Dunn was the soul, a deep, emotional vocalist who could hold a note like a preacher holding a prayer. He didn't just sing, he bled into the mic. Songs like Neon Moon and Believe felt like pages from his diary. Kix Brooks was the fire, the showman, the edge. He brought that electric honky-tonk energy, the guy who kept the boots stomping and the crowd on its feet. His vocals on Rock My World, Little Country Girl, or South of Santa Fe brought a raucous, almost rebellious twist. Together, they were lightning in a long neck bottle, a delicate collision of ballad and barroom, polished and raw, gospel and rock, all blended under a Stetson hat. Critics called it formulaic, but fans, they called it real. Steve Huey of AllMusic once described their sound as a winning formula of rowdy honky-tonk, with hard-driving rhythms and tender, pop-leaning ballads. It was music you could cry to, or dance to, or do both in the same song. But more than sound, they gave country music a look again. The denim, the boots, the leather, the unapologetic cowboy energy. At a time when country risked becoming too slick, too polished, too clean, Brooks and Dunn brought back the grit. They were the next generation of outlaws, not breaking rules, but rewriting them. And their rise didn't just inspire fans, it forced an industry shift. By 1994, there were only 4 duos nominated in the CMA category, and 2 weren't even signed to labels. Then Brooks and Dunn stormed through, and suddenly, the duo format was back. New acts popped up. Old ones got revived. The honky-tonk heartbeat returned. Because of them. Because they proved that 2 voices, different as night and day, could blend into something unforgettable. They weren't just singing about country life, they were living proof that country could evolve and still feel like home. They sang about cowboys. They dressed like cowboys. But did you know they also wrote themselves as cowboys? Meet Slim and Howdy, 2 fictional characters, gritty, witty, and always riding just outside the law, born not on a dusty trail, but in the liner notes of Brooks and Dunn albums. Every time fans cracked open a new CD, they'd find something unexpected. Not just lyrics, but short stories. Penned by Brooks and Dunn themselves, these tales followed the antics of Slim, a loose version of Kix, and Howdy, a shadow of Ronnie. 2 cowboy vagabonds with a knack for mischief and moments of surprising heart. It was part Western, part buddy comedy, part country mythology, and fans ate it up. The stories were never promotional fluff. They were an extension of who Brooks and Dunn were at their core, storytellers, not just in song, but on the page. Then in 2008, they took it a step further. Teaming up with writer Bill Fitzhugh, they published a full-blown novel titled The Adventures of Slim and Howdy. Equal parts hilarious and heartfelt, the book brought their alter egos to life in a wild ride of bar fights, heartbreaks, outlaw wisdom, and backroom banter. It was country music meets comic strip, urban cowboy meets literary mischief, and it cemented something we already knew. Brooks and Dunn were never just musicians. They were a brand, a myth, a story waiting to be told over and over again in every medium possible. Slim and Howdy may not have charted on Billboard, but they rode just as far in the hearts of fans. Because when country music's greatest duo writes themselves into fiction, you follow the trail. Every time. After the shows, after the gold records, after the long tours, and even longer nights. Who are Brooks and Dunn when the boots come off? Personal life. Kix Brooks, the louder of the 2, the wild one on stage, is a devoted husband and father at heart. He's been married to Barbara Brooks since 1981, long before the fame, the flash, or the CMA Awards. Together they raised 2 children, Molly and Eric, and built a quiet, grounded life on their beloved ranch in Williamson County, Tennessee. He may be a honky-tonk hero to millions, but at home, he's just Kix, husband, dad, vintner. Yes, vintner, because when he's not behind a mic, Kix co-runs the acclaimed Arrington Vineyards, a scenic winery just outside of Nashville. There, amid rows of grapes and sunset views, he pours not just wine, but stories. He often says that wine, like music, is about emotion, about timing, about knowing when to hold back and when to let it all breathe. It's the same balance he's always struck on stage. And then there's Ronnie Dunn, quieter, moodier, the poetic soul in boots. He married Janine Dunn in 1990, and together they have 3 children, Whitney, Jesse, and Haley. Though more private than Kix, Ronnie is no less devoted. His home just outside Nashville sits on acres of open space, a reflection of the emotional depth he's always poured into his music. He's a father, a husband, a thinker. And to this day, Ronnie writes, sometimes alone, sometimes in the company of old friends, but always with honesty, always with heart. What's remarkable is that even after their official split in 2009, Brooks and Dunn never really separated. They took a break. They exhaled. But in 2015, they returned to the stage alongside Reba McEntire for a residency in Las Vegas. And from there, they never looked back. Reboot 2019 reminded everyone why their songs still hit like they did in 91. Reboot 2 2024 proved they weren't done evolving, featuring fresh voices like Jelly Roll, Lainey Wilson, and Marcus King, even crossing genres with blues and rock collaborations. Because true legends don't retire, they reshape, reinvent, reflect. And Brooks and Dunn, they've done it all, with cowboy hats on their heads and Southern soul in their hearts. They never chased trends, they never sold out. They built a legacy and then quietly lived it. In the end, they are two sides of the same coin. One is fire, one is soul, one is boots, one is bourbon. But both, forever country and forever brothers. So how do you say goodbye to legends like Brooks and Dunn? You don't. Because cowboys never really leave the story. They just ride off. They don't slam doors. They don't drop microphones. They tip their hats, squint into the horizon, and disappear into the next verse of their lives. Together, Kix and Ronnie shaped an era, rewriting the rulebook for what a country duo could be. They didn't just make hits, they made movements. They made soundtracks for weddings, breakups, first loves, final dances. They made people feel, and when the lights went down, they didn't cash out and vanish. They went home, one to a vineyard and a saddle, the other to old guitars and silent lakes. They raised children, they gave back. They told stories, on paper, on stage, through wine, through chords. And when the world needed them again, they came back, not as stars desperate for a comeback, but as icons answering a call. Even now, decades later, their music still fills dive bars and county fairs, still spills out of truck radios on back roads under moonlight, still makes someone, somewhere, fall in love with country music for the first time. That's legacy, that's immortality, and that's Brooks and Dunn. Two cowboys, one bond, and a trail of songs etched deep into the heart of America. So as the dust settles on their stage and the lights fade to amber, just remember, legends don't say goodbye. They leave you humming the last line, long after they've gone.